talk about the clean energy transition all the time, of course, but the big hurdle is, how do you manage the moments when the wind doesn't blow and the sun doesn't shine? We need energy storage. I mean, that's just, if you're a listener of Electric Ladies podcast, you've heard me talk about the need for energy storage. And right now, that need for electricity 24/7 is filled mostly, unfortunately, by fossil fuel energy in one form or another. So how do we provide 24/7 clean electricity? Well, today we're going to talk to a woman who is leading an organization tackling this challenge head on. So grab a pen and notepad or tablet to take notes and listen up. Welcome to Electric Ladies podcast. We share stories, insights, tips, and advice from remarkably innovative women working on the front lines of corporate responsibility, energy, sustainability, and ESG-related issues. I'm your host, Joan Michelson. We talk about innovation, leadership, technologies, and careers, always bringing a new perspective. Find us anywhere you like to listen to podcasts, on our website, electricladiespodcast.com, and through my Forbes articles as well. And please, if you like the show, pass it on to your friends and leave us a 5-star review. It helps other people find us. And I also love hearing from you. I've gotten some great messages from listeners. It's really fun. If you are at an inflection point yourself, looking for support with your ESG work or your career, especially at this time when we're kind of both in flux, but also have enormous opportunities, please reach out to me on Twitter or LinkedIn and let me know. We can help you no matter what industry you're in. This episode is brought to you by Competent Boards, a comprehensive training program for board members and aspiring board members. I'm doing the sustainability and ESG designation and certification program myself. I'm also, full disclosure, faculty in the program. The group is truly global in perspective, and who's in the group? I love having people from all over the world in every session, and there are people who are not normally accessible. It gives you the skills, strategic perspective, and confidence that you will need for today's boardrooms, especially around the kinds of issues that we talk about on Electric Ladies podcast. You can check them out at competentboards.com. So in order to make this energy transition work, we need what's often called baseload power. The power that keeps the lights on and our phones and computers and medical equipment humming when the sun isn't shining and the wind isn't blowing. There are a lot of energy storage solutions being developed and tested today to fill this gap. I was just in Iceland a couple of weeks ago, and their baseload power is geothermal energy. Of course, they have volcanoes, which we've heard so much about, and I was next to one, which is another topic. The Long Duration Energy Storage Council issued a report recently saying that, quote, long duration energy storage technologies paired with renewables could reduce global industrial greenhouse gas emissions by 65%. Wow. Wow. They also say that the world's long-duration energy storage market could be worth $4 trillion by 2040 with a T. That's a lot of light bulbs, people. Let's find out how from their CEO. I'd like you to meet Julia Souder. She's CEO of the Long Duration Energy Storage Council. Say that 3 times fast. The LDES Council is a nonprofit that provides long-duration energy storage guidance to governments and grid operators, as well as education and advocacy to help us achieve net zero electric grids by 2040. The council covers a wide range of LDES technologies, and its members span a wide range of innovations, which she'll tell us about. Julia brings over 20 years of expertise in the energy and environmental sectors. If I went through her entire resume, we'd be here all week, so I won't do that. But I will tell you that prior to LDES, she served as executive director of the Long Duration Energy Storage Association of California and had leadership roles at the Natural Resource Defense Council, the North American Electric Reliability Corporation, and the Department of Energy. She has 2 BAs from Oregon State University in political science and international relations. What? No energy? No engineering? Please, let's talk about this. And an MPA in policy implementation from the University of Southern California. Well, I'm a UCLA grad, so I'll let you get away with that. Without further ado, please join me in welcoming Julia Souder to Electric Ladies Podcast. Thank you for joining me, Julia.
Thank you, Joan, so much for being here. It's a real pleasure and honor to speak with you today. Thank you so much for your interest in storage.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. So let's start with some basics to make sure that everybody's following along on our journey here. So define exactly what long duration energy storage is and what the council does and who it represents.
Great. So long duration energy storage is defined as 8 hours plus. We look at how long duration storage can really fill in the gaps when you don't have wind and solar 24/7. So we look at days, weeks, months, and even seasons. So again, long duration storage is 8 hours filling in the gaps. Highlighting 4 families of long duration storage. This diversity is really important. So thermal energy storage, these are the rocks, the salts, the bricks, the graphite and carbon that we're storing as heat, making either heat to heat or heat to electricity. It's really a power to X. It's really important that we kind of use very inexpensive materials and just can hold heat for days, months, and years. And then there's a high efficiency in keeping this heat. A lot of industrial users capture waste heat and store it, hold it as thermal energy storage and reuse it. And then we also, and same with agriculture or hospitals, like you mentioned. And so that's thermal energy storage.
Excuse me, can I get you to slow down a little bit? I'm a New York City girl and I tend to talk fast, but you're putting me to shame.
Sure. I know I get so excited talking about it, so let me slow down. So the next one is electrochemical. So when a lot of people think of storage, I think batteries. And so this is where batteries fit in. And a lot of people think of lithium ion, which is great because we see it in our phones and our, if you're an electric vehicle. And so this is one element. We like to say that all the elements on the periodic table, zinc, vanadium, iron, magnesium, calcium, sodium, these are all can be stored as energy and really reused. And so whether there's flow batteries or different types of battery systems that we have, air batteries, metal batteries, we also can store storage. And this is usually multiple hours, the 8 hours, 12 hours, and some are even doing 100 hours. And then you move to chemical. So this is hydrogen, ammonia. These are, we also can store green hydrogen, and we have companies that are deploying this today, electrolyzers. And actually there's some in Iceland and Europe. And then we also have the mechanical. This is the traditional kind of the grandparents of long duration storage. They've been around for over 100 years. This is pump storage that we are very familiar with, that over 90% of the world renewables are still in hydro. And we also have mechanical, so compressed air, liquid air. The new technologies are evolving. A lot of the gravity work that we're seeing, holding water, not just above ground, but below ground, holding hydrogen. So different ways you can store for multiple hours, days, and seasons. And this diversity is really important because whether you're an island nation and you maybe have floating solar or offshore wind and you want to bring it in and hold it when you're not going to have that, every week, you want to repurpose it for your ports or your infrastructure. You can also, urban centers, there's different types of compact spaces where you can put these types of storage devices, particular batteries, underground, agriculture. So really the whole world needs this diversity of options to meet their local needs. And this is why Long Duration Storage Council exists, to really promote the $4 trillion US marketplace you mentioned, and this need of 8 terawatts of LDES, the power, heat, hydrogen aspect by 2040. And we're working on a global storage target to meet this requirement of, how do we transition this to a clean energy economy? How do we decarbonize to make sure that we're, having reduced emissions and better benefits for customers and communities?
Yeah, that's really helpful. So just to clarify a couple things, are you saying that I mean, obviously batteries are not always underground, right? So
Right.
are there certain types of technologies in thermal, electrochemical, chemical, and mechanical that are like what percentage are stored underground? I mean, what are the different ways of storing it, not just the chemistries of storing it? I mean, I've talked to people who are doing salt, I've talked to people who are doing hydrogen, I've talked to a whole bunch of different type of battery technologies, obviously, and others. But But the interesting thing that you're mentioning to me is that some of them are stored underground and some of them are not.
Mhm.
So talk about where they're actually stored and how that matters.
This is where the diversity piece of long duration storage is really remarkable. There are existing salt caverns that are repurposed to store hydrogen or air or even water and store the energy for use later. There are tanks that can be used above ground that can even repurposing existing gas plants and the existing infrastructure and using that infrastructure to be used for long duration energy storage. Many of the thermal energy storage plants can replace gas plants. A lot of the batteries that you might see out there in electrochemical are containers. You can just stack containers and really just kind of make sure that you're doing that above ground in a variety of ways. We have members who are using blocks, and again, they can just be fit within containers. We use a lot of containers for different types of storage because it's easy to move around and it's already an existing infrastructure that is already part of the supply chain, so it lowers costs. And it also mines. There are a lot of mines that are being repurposed, so you can use existing mines and infrastructure also to hold storage. There are other types of our members who have blocks that move up and down or rail and move things around. There's also these just kind of buildings moving, just like big blocks, and there's also domes holding carbon and having it kind of be used to for compressed air. So there's a lot of diversity for different options, and it's what's also great is that this is not reinventing the wheel. These technologies have been around for a long time. It's more that the need is now finally here. The markets are opening up, and now we're able to start pushing to scale. And a lot of the existing technologies build on existing pieces or components or materials that are in supply chains. So we're not needing a brand new supply chain. We're looking at the value chain components. And this is again
That's really
cost savings.
helpful. Yeah. Are there safety issues with storing any of this underground?
So there are products that can use lithium ion for 8 hours plus, but a lot of our members joke that they can put fires out because they don't catch on fire. They don't have the same safety requirements that other types of chemicals do. But I think each product and each technology has its own checklist, but these are environmentally friendly. These are minerals that are, very abundant and safe. These are technologies that are, have been proven and built upon, again, as existing experiences. So it's safe, environmentally friendly, recyclable. A lot of our companies are, their ESG targets have been met, and they're really trying to promote how to be effective and efficient, how to have that circularity involved, and again, just really promote the benefits to the environment in a variety of ways.
Well, and a lot of the minerals and stuff obviously are coming from the ground itself. But
Mhm.
I was just thinking that, well, for two things. First of all, in Iceland, they're storing CO2 underground, and it becomes rock that actually kind of looks like this when it's
Yeah.
when you can't see that on a podcast. You'll have to watch the video to see what I'm showing. There you
Yeah.
go.
Yeah, you'll have to go to our
Um,
website too, because you can see a lot of our different members' technologies there and see the diversity of what's available and how, there's the different types of, energy blocks, the way that we capture storage, similar to what you had in your hand. These can be small and you
yeah.
just, the density is quite impressive and you just build
Yeah.
up and compact them.
Well, that's why I was thinking of the safety factor. And, I understand in Oklahoma from fracking, they've had more earthquakes. And so I was kind of wondering if some of this drilling underground to get storage, might create more earthquakes or such. But one other quick item on this, and then I'll go on, is would you say that nuclear energy is a form of long duration energy storage?
I'd say
I
that
mean,
long
that's
duration
kind of
energy
the point.
storage helps nuclear energy. A lot of nuclear energy plants have backup diesel generators. And so what long duration energy storage could do is replace backup diesel generators. And we have members doing this in a variety of locations around the world. And that's a huge savings for local communities on emissions and costs. And also because just the cost of bringing in fuel is so expensive that you can already see the value of long duration energy storage costs today. So ELDAs and the diverse technologies we represent can replace backup diesel generators and be that secure element to a reliable system. You mentioned earlier, Jonah, about baseload. Long duration energy storage can provide that dispatchability that provides that 24/7, that baseload that we need. And that's a huge huge item that I just want to repeat is that long duration storage is dispatchable, and we can do it in power, heat, and hydrogen. And these options that are available and solutions that are available in the marketplace today, just need to really, become part of the marketplace and the economy, and that, we really do affect every part of the ecosystem and provide that value.
Yeah, and just for the uninitiated who might not be as fluid in energy technologies, could you define dispatchable?
Yes. So again, as you point out, wind and solar are very variable. They don't always come in when we want them, and they sometimes come too much when we don't need them. And so what we currently use fossil fuel for today is to really just keep that constant line. So we always have that reliable, that power, the heat. And so what long duration storage does is take those ups and downs from wind and solar and really makes it that solid line again, so that we can really depend on keeping the lights on 24/7 with long duration storage.
Cool. The baseline part. Good. Thank you so much.
Sure.
You mentioned blocks and containers.
Mm-hmm.
It just occurred to me as I was preparing to talk to you today. I wonder are there use cases where companies with long duration energy storage solutions are helping in disaster areas? Are they able to move some of these blocks? So talk about that for a second.
Yes, it's as we're all experiencing, these climate disasters are not happening every year; they're happening every month, every week around the world. And so, what's a great aspect for also addressing security concerns is that you can have long duration energy storage repurpose existing infrastructure. You can use these containers and move them around, just like you would on trucks, ships, and you can really kind of be able to come in and be that backup power supply that you needed, for addressing, cell towers. How are you powering these things? It's, you can use long duration energy storage to give you that certainty. Again, we have members who have worked with the United States Native American tribes on helping their community centers be reliable, so they can have their community, the fire sure that everyone can come get their medicines. It's all charged in one area, are safe. And so, yes, the flexibility that we have, not just in the types of storage, but then the way that we can move our devices around, is very feasible.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking when you talked about it. So what industries or what types of organizations would you say are the primary clients of long duration energy storage? Is it utilities? Is it manufacturing plants? Is it local governments? I mean, tell us a couple
It's
stories.
all of the above. And I think that's also just a huge awareness factor. And that's one of the values of the Long Duration Energy Storage Council, is that we represent the whole ecosystem. So we represent members that are from the four families I mentioned earlier: the electrochemical, chemical, thermal, and mechanical. But we also represent the service providers, utilities. We represent the equipment manufacturers. We represent developers. We represent customers. We represent all these different elements, again, of the whole ecosystem: financiers, investors, and so and traditional energy companies too. Because they're doing a lot of investment in a long duration storage. They might already have existing knowledge, transferring over and upskilling a lot of the workforce. So again, that whole aspect of just broadened economy, all the different components are part of the LDIS Council and growing.
So not just of the council, but who would be the customers for the technology itself?
Utilities, as you said,
Yeah.
utilities, governments, buildings, agriculture, industrial users, ports. It's everybody. And then a lot of things we're seeing too is that existing renewable energy companies, where they have large wind or solar plants, or even small ones, need long duration storage to be with them. So a lot of hybridizations happening of, we must now have renewable energy with storage. And also just the evolving, we have some geothermal members because of the comparability and compatibility with geothermal as a storage, but also a baseload itself. And so again, using existing infrastructure and just trying to be effective and efficient with what we have and making it better.
Yeah, and trying to conserve all the clean energy so we can get it where we need to get it and reduce the amount of fossil fuels. Have you done any? I quoted in the beginning the stat about reducing fossil fuel use by 65% or emissions from them by 65%. Do you have any data on where you're at on that, or where I shouldn't say where long duration energy storage is at on that achievement? I mean, where are we now today?
So we are looking to have 8 terawatts of LDIS deployed by 2040. And that is 8,000 gigawatts, which is, it's a lot, because today I think there's if you count pumped hydro, we do have a long duration energy storage in, we're at the 1 terawatt, but if you look at all the different types I mentioned earlier and kind of the deployment that's needed for long duration storage, we're still in the gigawatts. So we need to really push this further. And that's why the LDES Council is working with partners around the world to really help expand the marketplaces, because so many markets that exist don't realize the value that long duration storage can provide. Black start, starting after you've had a crisis. It has load following to again kind of follow the oscillation of the power. And there are all these other ancillary services that long duration storage provides, but there's not a lot of markets that really give the beneficial financial incentives and kind of paybacks for storage. And so we're trying to make sure that when storage comes on the marketplace, it's getting paid not just for energy arbitrage, but also for all these other services, which are huge value again. And you mentioned earlier that we lose wind and solar when we can't capture and use it. So we have a lot of curtailment, and this costs billions of pounds, trillion dollars, and this around the world. This is a huge loss, and that's why we're starting to also see a push by governments to start increasing storage targets, these mandates to get the signal out there to change the market so that we can have more storage to capture that unused clean energy so we can use it later, and that allows for $540 billion a year in savings.
Wow. Wow. Yeah, there's a lot of leakage of the solar and wind that's not being captured. So I'm glad you mentioned the financial. Thank you for that perfect segue. There's a bunch of money in the Inflation Reduction Act, the Infrastructure Investment Act, and the Chips and Science Act. I understand for long duration energy storage, there's some high dollar loans and grants going out. Talk about where you see whether it's your members or not, but LDES or entities, technologies, companies getting some of those loans or grants and where they're at.
I will jump on that. And Joan, you just mentioned something. I want to make another bridge from the emissions point, because you mentioned that we have this high emissions in a lot of the industrial sector. I'd say there's been a lot of push by industrial members, to start investing in long duration energy storage because they're seeing the savings and it helps them meet their scope 1, 2, and 3 goals too. So there is now I think the reality that we have to reduce emissions, and that there's now more pushes on carbon pricing, and there's an economic cost to this, which is now really helping us move transition faster, but we still have a lot more to do. And that goes to why we need the incentives and the different packages for financial blended portfolios, what the government did in the United States and what other countries are starting to look at and kind of in a comparative, collaborative way, build their own incentive tools and packages. And so in the US, there's the 30% tax credit for storage, which is phenomenal. And then you can build upon that the community development components, the local manufacturing. And so many of our members are building gigawatt factories here in the United States. I think there's at least 6 of them that are actually in construction today, which is really exciting, and all over the country. It's not just one state; it's many states that are benefiting from this. And then,
hang on, there's 6. Yeah. There's 6 what?
6 technology companies that are building gigawatt factories to build the long duration energy storage, whether it's in electrochemical, getting all the different components, and whether it's in Oregon, New York, Kentucky, whether it's in there's and a lot more states are giving local incentives to bring manufacturing there, which is phenomenal. So there are the tax credits, but then there's also the financial funds that has been given $500 million, no, actually $500 billion US dollars, so over 500 billion to long duration energy storage, and we've had over 10 projects announced, partnerships with the U.S. Department of Defense, U.S. Department of Energy, different industrial users, Alaska, other areas, utilities working on these different projects to deploy and really move from the 5 megawatt, which is pretty small, to the 500 megawatts. So really trying to push us there. And I know we're really grateful to the U.S. Department of Energy's loan office, because they've really helped bring in that blended finance and kind of really help demonstrate there is a lot of warranty and security, and part of the LDES's need is really more than just justified. It's essential to decarbonize. And so that's been really helpful. And we're seeing this now in Spain, the UK, Australia, Chile. Chile has changed their constitution to really elevate the need for storage, and gave $2 billion Chilean to support storage, and really highlighted the need for long duration energy storage, because they have so much curtailment of solar in the north that they need to really bring down to the south. And so they've been really strong in leadership of demonstrating this and just, continue to promote why long duration storage is critical to their needs. And many countries are following this and doing their own work. Like Spain has done a lot, and Spain has really highlighted thermal energy storage and power for long duration storage. So that's great, noting that different sectors need those different needs and different incentives. So it's the public-private partnership, putting out financing by the government to really support industry and then attract additional private financing to really kind of push us to the next level.
Right. And there's also, it's both carrots and sticks. Those are the carrots, but there's also the sticks, right? The standards and frameworks and the
Right.
regulatory frameworks. Let's talk about regulations for a second, and I'll just jump to that. And then FERC will soon have a full commission, which is very exciting. Finally. And like, what difference do you think what changes do you think they'll make? What's your take on the regulatory landscape for long duration energy storage?
We really need to make sure that FERC and the staff there are caught up with all the important attributes of long duration storage. And so we've had some meetings with staff and some of the commissioners, but it'd be great for them to really consider how storage can be a transmission asset, how storage can be a generation asset, and how storage can be a distribution asset. And so how does this now storage come into their new rules that they will be making and help incorporate the values of long duration storage? How can LDES be part of market structures? There are the ISOs and RTOs that are looking at how to expand market criteria and really making sure that there's enough flexible criteria that we can continue to grow and not keep it so restricted where it's just you just look at storage as checking one box. That would be a very much a limiting factor that would be devastating to customers.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's one of the things is that, sort of it's an unfortunate running joke, but that the regulations seem to follow the technologies and often kind of hold them back, really. I interviewed the chief sustainability officer of MGM Resorts International. And I don't know if you ever met Cindy Ortega, but she retired recently, but she was the CFO. And she saw that energy was eating up way too much of their budget, but she also was seeing all these cool technologies and realized that being part of Nevada Power, they couldn't take advantage of these new technologies because Nevada Power wasn't up to speed. And the Nevada Commission wasn't up to speed. So she, bless her heart, and negotiated MGM Resorts out of Nevada Power and basically became their own utility. And paid them to go away and stop holding them back because their regulatory framework and the way the utility operated was actually holding back the innovation and their ability to use cool new energy technologies, which probably included long duration energy storage.
Definitely. And what we're seeing is, we have a wonderful partnership with Edison Electric Institute and EPRI, Electric Power Research Institute, and we have an MOU with them and the U.S. Department of Energy to educate more utilities and the labs and kind of really push us to the point of we've got to really bring everyone up to speed to really, continue to build this momentum and address the solutions that we have today that we just need to deploy. And we are seeing, because of artificial intelligence, the need for growing demand centers, how is that also playing into the grid? And are some of these tech companies considering being a utility? But there is that regulation back and forth. But then you have, states like Minnesota who are really pushing the envelope and saying we can be proactive here. We can make some new regulations where we can support long duration storage and really find new financing mechanisms. So let's try it as a storage, as a transmission asset, and then let's try it in these other ways so that we can really, bring this forward and have a partnership with the local utilities to see that there's a gain for everybody. And then we're seeing other states where they might have defined storage in that little box and it's being so restrictive, it's not giving the flexibility that we need.
That's really interesting because Minnesota, of course, has terrible weather. And I lived in Fargo, North Dakota for 2.5 years. And I spent a lot of time in Minnesota. So I have a lot of wonderful friends there, but the climate, let's just say the climate demands a lot of energy.
It does. Right. And it's also, and New York has done a lot for supporting demos, and so is California. But, we can always push more on the regulations. Getting a storage target for each state and even, the federal global, that is monumental. So having that regulation come forward where we are supporting a storage target of 2 terawatts, that includes heat and power and California was one of the first states and one of the first areas in the nation to have a storage target specifically for long duration storage. And it was 1 gigawatt by 2020. Now it's like 2030. But that's tiny. Like now Australia is over 12 gigawatts. Europe, we need to kind of keep up with the times, keep pushing this, because those targets help incentivize the markets and the financing and the procurement. And so there's a whole cycle here that we just need to really, really lean into, because it's powerful and it makes a difference.
Well, and also the energy needs are going up. I mean, climate change is increasing the need for both heat and air conditioning. It's also, wiping out power lines and, transmission lines, et cetera. And all of the data centers and AI you mentioned, and electric vehicles and electrifying everything. I mean, it's, there's no choice. We have to figure this out. So, one of the issues that I keep thinking about when I think about long duration energy storage, and especially the four methodologies, if you will, that you mentioned, is that they require long duration energy storage in general requires a lot of critical minerals. So, where are your clients or your members or the companies in these technologies getting their minerals from it? How are they, and maybe the council, ensuring that they're not coming from conflict zones or environmentally destabilizing areas, or even child labor or any of that? It's a big, big issue, but they're profoundly, I mean, you can't get there from here without these minerals.
Right. And I'd say a lot of the minerals, the zinc, the vanadium, the iron, these iron and zinc are very, I mean, these all three elements here are very prolific. They're very environmentally friendly and safe. And as I mentioned earlier, our companies really will hold their ESG values strongly and show that they're not only are they building the infrastructure, but they're also making sure that their counterparts in supply chain in other areas are meeting their checklist for protecting, from child labor and protecting, different topics that you've raised. What's fascinating is that we have members that are actually mining long-duration stores to run their organizations, the mining industry, but they also are mining the minerals for this. And so there's another, so that kind of synergy also kind of helps everybody kind of in the, with cost, but also just accountability. Vanadium can be expensive, but there's great new ways to lease it, to reuse it. It doesn't degrade, so you can just always kind of keep the vanadium and repurpose it in another cell that might be, after 20 years degrading. But this is, there's new creative ways to work on how can we, really repurpose, reuse, reutilize long-duration storage minerals. And again, it's safe. And for example, one of our members, or a couple of them, use iron, and that's, they're going to existing steel mills or where they have access to recycled iron and kind of repurpose, or they're pieces of iron that are not used. So they're again helping the circular economy. Zinc, there are many of our members kind of, they'll build a factory right by it. We have thermal energy storage companies that are using existing factories and like for bricks or for metals that are their salts. It's just, these are things that are very prolific in nature. And it's something that we're kind of helping the system. We're, being versus an excavator, I guess.
Well, I hope so, because I mean there are others like graphite and even lithium that, I mean, I know there's some lithium mines that are trying to be built in the US. They're getting into Native American land conflicts, but it's a big issue, and I'm glad that you have your criteria, and I hope they abide by it, because it's a tricky one. Abby Wolf is terrific on these issues. I'm sure you may know her. She's really great. I've heard her a couple times, and I'm gonna have her on the show.
Good, because we can do more. I mean, we could definitely, the transparency and accountability are really important. And I think there's always lessons to be learned, because there's definitely, not always been done the right ways before. So how can we improve? I'm always looking to find ways to get better.
Yeah, and that transparency and accountability hasn't always been a priority. Let's put it that way, right? So, to that end, just real quick, do you find that the reporting, the proliferation now of reporting requirements and frameworks are making that easier to sell, if you will? Or is that having any kind of an impact on even maybe the use of long duration energy storage, as well as the whole minerals issue? Because they have to report on it now.
Right, right. And there's now new legislation, regulations coming in from different countries. I mean, the European Union's also looking at what's the, what are the components of batteries and how does it come from? So yes, these kinds of global standards are affecting everyone. I think the proactive nature of a lot of the eldest, energy, long duration storage companies have already really kind of seen the writing on the wall and already being proactive because they know how much of a need we are to decarbonize and how much our role and partnership is critical.
Cool. So, a couple other things, and then I want to get some career advice from you for everybody. But what are the biggest challenges for increasing adoption and deployment? I mean, you've kind of alluded to some of them, but I mean, getting from barely 1 terawatt to 8 terawatts in 15 years is not an easy lift. So how do you, I mean, obviously scaling is an issue, but what are some of the challenges for getting adoption? I mean, we've got it seems like we have the technologies. It seems like what the issue is in adoption and deployment. So what are the challenges in that?
I'd say that there's three main challenges to how do we need to address the scaling and the increase of long duration storage. One is just the understanding of the value add that LDES brings. Just the fact that you have this diversity of options, of technologies, of minerals, of ways to supply the 24/7 power or heat, and all the benefits that come with it. So the ancillary services I mentioned earlier, like the fact that you have all these different attributes that can be added to the energy system, the grid system. That increase in education will then help the policymakers and regulators. So again, it's just awareness of the value of long duration storage and really putting, one-to-one of the need and how we can really kind of, help transition to the clean energy economy. So on that the second point, building on the awareness and education is this criteria, the models need to be updated. So we've been working with various organizations on modeling and even the IEA, IRENA, and now more and more the EIA on updating the models. They need to be updated to really show the value add of long duration storage and how they can replace gas plants. And so once we get the models updated more, that really also just helps bring in more data for utilities and others to kind of see, how does this compare and how can we better plan for this? And then the last point is just, the market criteria has to be updated. And so making sure that there are different payment structures and different ways that, both the LDES technology provider, but the customers, utilities, the users, that, they all have the way that they can see there's the economic value in addition to the environmental value. So education, awareness, modeling, and market criteria. And what we've been doing to address all these is one, we now globally have a renewable energy storage target of tripling renewables by 2030. So that's 11 terawatts of global renewables capacity made. And the IEA and IRENA just published a report that we are very far away from that right now, where 10% of the countries even have renewable energy target goals. So there's a lot of work to be done. But once we get those goals in there, we can push and scale. I mean, just this last year, globally, we're at 30% of the generation was renewable energy. That was just in a couple of years. So we can do this. We just need the right factors there. And I think just that's what this positive momentum is really building upon. So we have that renewable energy storage target now, or renewable energy target. Now we need the global energy storage target. So that will also kind of go hand in hand and show that as you're building more wind and solar, you're building long duration storage with it. Let's do this in a cohesive manner. And then the financing. We've got to continue to have these public-private partnerships. We've got to have the blended capital. We have to keep pushing on how warranties, insurances, all these kind of factors that really can support the scale are there and continue to be there. It just can't be 1 year if we'll have a little blip. I mean, there was $4 billion invested in 2023 for long duration storage, and that should be doubling every year. And just that exponential growth. And that's just in the US. So again, public-private finance and just that awareness of how there is a lot of economic benefits and savings that come from long duration storage. And so how to really monetize that and really bring the benefits back to the customers and communities.
Yeah. Are you nervous about the potential of the November election?
It's amazing that this year, maybe 80% of the world's population had elections.
I know, it's kind of amazing.
We're almost halfway through it. And I think it's very fascinating to watch what's happening around the world of kind of where you are in the left, right, middle, and politics will always play into this. But I think overall, just we have this momentum. We're in this transition together. So it's it's a concern to be aware of and kind of, but it's not going to stop us. There's still storage is such a huge part of the economy and a huge part of us, of just so many companies are already in this transition process. It would cost them too much to stop.
Well, and I agree with that. There's also, frankly, too much money to be made in the transition, and there's companies, regardless of what happens. I mean, obviously, President Biden has been very supportive of these technologies. That's made it easier with especially with this trifecta of these bills and the funding and the incentives that are in them. But at the same time, the markets have already decided that this is the way it's going to go, and customers are demanding it. And so, I mean, even people say, well, slow down electric vehicles. Well, yeah, but it went up to 1.5 million sales of electric vehicles doubled in less than 12 months. That's not slowing down in my world.
Right.
And so to a degree, the train has left the station, but I think I can just see how there's people who are saying, let's get this money out the door. I was just at the Politico Energy Summit, and Secretary Granholm was talking about, we're trying to get the money out the door as quickly as possible, but we're also trying to do it in a way, we need to do it in a way that is responsible and that checks all the boxes and et cetera, et cetera. So they're in a tough spot. They're kind of damned if they do and damned if they don't, but doing it the right way is the best way.
Right.
By the way, just as a point, when I was in Iceland, I went to the International Geothermal Conference, and the woman who's the head of IRENA spoke. She's great, Guri Singh. And she talked a lot about how important women are in this energy transition, and on the front lines and as innovators bringing new ideas to the table. It was really interesting. I'm trying to interview her, so I've got some people working on that. Yeah, she'd be really great to
Joan,
talk to.
You brought up geothermal, because Marit, who is the CEO of the International Geothermal Association, she and I work together because we're both co-founders of the Global Renewables Alliance, which really brought all industrial sectors with energy to come together. Yeah. And so Sonia Agarwal, who's the CEO of the Global Solar Council, Sonia Dunlap, she's also the CEO. So you've got 3 women CEOs and a 6 CEO organization that is really highlighting kind of this clean energy transition. And it's really powerful just to have us all in the room. And we work with our colleagues, Ben Blackwell at Global Wind Energy Council, and then Eddie at the International Hydropower Association, and then Jonas at Green Hydrogen Organization. So the 6 of our organizations all came together to create the Global Renewables Alliance. And we're really work a lot with IRENA and IEA to support the implementation of the AAA renewables targets. And we're working on, what does this look like for the Clean Energy Ministerial, for the G20, for the New York Climate Week, for the next COP. And we're working on how do we, time for implementing better grid policies, interconnections. Long duration energy storage is a congestion management tool. How do we help there? Again, on the supply chains, how all of our industrial groups working together, our industry associations are really trying to bring that cohesive voice to say, look, we are the clean energy industry. We understand how important this is. We bring trillions and trillions of US dollars into this. We have the jobs, and this is the new economy. And so we're standing up with our partners to show how important this is. But to have 3 women part of this, this group, and our fearless leader, Bruce, who's the CEO of the Global Renewables Alliance, we have an amazing partnership. And for the rest of this year, I'm chair, but to have a woman also as the chair of the Global Renewables Alliance has also been a wonderful experience. And just the support among all of us has been, I think, very collaborative. And I think that's also been helping us positive momentum on the clean energy transition.
Oh, I love that. I'd love to hear more about that. Yeah, I actually spent a little bit of time talking to Maureen. I'm gonna interview her as well. She's adorable. Yeah, I have some funny pictures of us at a picnic, and there, it was June and it was 45 degrees, and half of them are in shorts. It was kind of funny.
Right.
The climate. No. A fire in shorts and hats. When we got there, it's my second trip to Iceland, but when we got there, they gave us little wool caps and stuff. It's like, but it's June. Anyway, okay.
Well, it's like when all 6 of us.
It's Iceland.
Yes, and right. It's like when the Global Renewables Alliance had a board meeting in Dubai during COP, all six of us were there, and it was, sweltering heat, and just, and the next time we were all in Dubai, it was the intense rainstorms that were coming through the hotels. I mean, we've been experiencing this, and the irony that all these climate negotiations are happening around the world, and we're now feeling it. So we need to move faster because we have a lot of work to do.
Yeah, we totally do. Just one other quick question and then get some advice from you. What we've been talking around is the fact that these technologies are evolving like at the speed of light. I mean, every day it seems is something new and it's exciting, it's wonderful. But how the bleep do you stay on top of it? I mean, seriously, I mean, what do you read? What do you listen to? I mean, obviously, I hope you listen to Electric Ladies podcast. That'll help. But no, but I mean, seriously, there's so much, and you're in a position to help guide people who know, less than you do, right? So how do you stay abreast of it all?
Barely. I think with friends' help. I mean, honestly, I think everyone feels like we're constantly coming up for air. So knowing that we're all in this together, that's kind of a nice moment to keep momentum going. But, I think it's with our partners. We, really kind of, when we see a good article, if it's important or we need to be aware of something, we forward it around to each other, just making sure we can stay on top of this. That Forbes, all the various articles, op-eds, really like trying to get those tidbits and variety of different digital feeds. It helps. Our members really also get bringing, we just this amazing network we have, just the kind of the constant thought leadership and lessons learned that we all can bring together, so effective and efficient in our meetings because we can really cover the globe with shared insights. So again, we have partnerships with all these different organizations, helping with them on their reports, amplifying key messages. And just, I think that these bridges that we're building just helps us kind of capture information much quicker. And then, we miss things and that's normal, but then how do you kind of, resurface it and bring it back up and tie it to something else? But yeah, there's a lot of great information out there. There's also a lot of fake information out there, and we have to monitor that too. And I think that's going to grow. And so we're again, that partnership of knowing who's real and who you can trust and building that is critical.
Oh, that's really good. I'm glad you made that point. So, before I let you get back to your life, I like to give career advice to mid-career women. So think about a woman who has at least 10, maybe 15 years of experience. She's educated. She knows what she's good at. She wants to excel. She wants to advance. She's ambitious and make money. And she wants to make a difference and doesn't want to have to make a trade-off, right? So what advice would you give to her?
Well, I love this question. And one thing that excites me, excuse me, is that I'm meeting all these women. They're amazing. They are exactly as you described them, Joan, and I'm so inspired by them. And it's wonderful just to see them, the desire to make a difference and the passion to really kind of bring all these different elements together and the frank conversations that are happening. So I would offer three things of advice. That one would be, start looking at boards, even like a local community board, a nonprofit. Just start getting your name out there because you want to build your experience. It doesn't have to be anything big. It can be a local community. It can be a religious organization, whatever. Just get on a local board so you start learning the dynamics and the different elements of this. Plus, then people start to watch you grow and then will help put your name on different lists to get you to different boards. So, and just also the what you can learn. And don't be intimidated by it. You might get told no a few times, and that's okay. Just keep trying. I think that's that second point is it doesn't hurt to ask. And I have to remind myself to do this too, but we need to just ask. You can ask questions. You can ask, it's not just curiosity, but there's just a joint learning there. So ask questions about, if you want to learn more opportunities. And that goes to, asking, go on LinkedIn and ask me a few times, Julia, I didn't hear from you, but can you help me on this? Or can you connect me to this? The way to build, more relationships and be a connector is key. So ask, if you need something, if you're curious, and if you, want some mentorship, ask, because all of us want to help. We don't know you're there until you ask us for it. And the last point I'd say is when you're negotiating your review processes or your next promotion or even a new job, ask for a coach, an executive coach. I think that's really important. Having executive coaches are phenomenal. There's so many different types of people out there for coaching. You might have a wonderful one. You might have different ones for different things. I think it's been phenomenal. I'm grateful for my executive coach. And I also am happy that there's different types of coaches, like somatic coaching, leadership coaching in different ways. It's to have an outlet and have someone help you grow but doesn't have a bias, which kind of can really give you new perspectives, is extremely valuable. And if they say, oh, you're not a senior leader yet, you say, yes, I'm a senior leader, but then can I have a management coach? Can I have a different leadership training? Start building that. And again, it's about the ask, but yes, it's important to put that into your contracts.
Oh, I love that. And as a coach myself, I agree with that. I find that sometimes people come to me, it just kind of happened because I write about this stuff and I cover it and I'm out there and I speak and whatever. And they say, can you help me? Whatever. But I find that I go around through their new role because I can help them navigate that environment, right? Kind of what you're talking about is, no, you're not crazy. And, but I also find it's interesting because I find that I'm also sometimes reminding people that something that their boss said or their colleague said is not crazy and is actually something that would be good for them to listen to, or was not as snarky as they're taking it, or was like that. I can catch them on misinterpreting something, is my point.
That's so important.
And I've had it too, myself. I love having advisors. So it's a way to keep you grounded. It's not just, you have spinach in your teeth. It's giving you new skills. It's giving you new ways of looking at things, is what I think is really valuable. Is, well, have you thought about it this way? Or have you thought about it that way? Or, we can tend to forget things, not forget to look at things. We get so into the trees that we forget to kind of look at it strategically. And leadership is about looking at things strategically. I mean, I've had clients who've said to me, they don't even think of themselves as a leader, or they're like, well, I'm in this group and it's a leadership group and I don't know what I'm doing in it. And I said, actually, they see you as a leader.
Yeah.
They put you in this. If they didn't see you as a leader, they wouldn't have put you in this group. So straighten up, put on your whatever and, embrace it. They think that's, they're seeing this in you. And I've had this with my own staff. Give them a project and they'll say, well, I don't know how to do that. I'm like, I know.
Go try it.
I believe you can figure it out. I believe you can figure it out. If somebody gives you a project, they believe you can figure it out.
That's
they wouldn't give it to you if they didn't think you couldn't do it.
Right, right. I see a lot of potential, a lot of people, so I give a lot. So it's also a balance.
Yeah, I'm sure.
It's good. No, that's really important. Yeah. Thanks, Jim.
Yeah. Any final thoughts before I let you get back to your world?
Well, thank you again for highlighting the important role of long duration energy storage and decarbonization, and just the fact that we have the technologies available today and they're in the marketplace. We just need to scale them up and really bring more awareness. So if you're a utility, look forward to working with you to purchase long duration storage to help your system be reliable. If you're a government official, we look forward to working with you on setting the storage targets. If you're a regulator, starting to get those incentives out there and the policies so customers save. And, just all these different customers and different elements. Your organization probably needs long duration energy storage, and we'd love to work with you on how to make that happen.
Okay, very cool. Excellent, excellent. So thank you so much for joining us, Julia Souder of Long Duration Energy Storage Council. And yes, there will not be a test after this episode, I promise. So what do you want to see in the energy mix? Are you using long duration energy storage? Do you think you can use what are your struggles with filling that gap? And how is the energy transition affecting you? Post it to us on Twitter and Threads, or LinkedIn at Joan Michelson. Send us any questions you have there for me or Julia, and you may win a complimentary coaching session with me. Speaking of coaching,
that'd be amazing.
And please subscribe. Thank you. And please subscribe to our mailing list to stay abreast of our amazing guests like Miss Julia, our articles, career advice, and ESG work. You can subscribe on our website, electricladiespodcast.com. I'm Joan Michelson. Thank you for joining us. See you next time.